Hey there, www.andrewmarkmusic.com. This is a Riffvlog on Is Yoga Evil? So in the description, I'll post the links to my Christian Gnosticism and Hinduism posts. There'll be links to Miles Mathis's writings on yoga, and I share his view on that 100%, so I'll just let him say it for me. So basically, this idea is coming from the evangelical or fundamentalist aspects of Christianity and Islam specifically. I understand what they're saying. I mean, from their perspective, it is evil, and the question is your perspective the truth about life? And I would argue no. I mean, I'm not going to touch too much on Islam, but within Christian cultures, they tend to think that usurious capitalism is a Christian thing to do. So at that point, they could be dismissed. I mean, I've termed especially American Christianity as a carnival barker grift show funded by Israel. So it shouldn't be taken seriously as a serious form of, you know, how the Christ would want Christians to live. If you want to sort of get an idea of that, you can go to the book of Acts and see how see the example of how, you know, a Christian church should live. The only thing I could say about that it might have been better in the last 100 years for the churches to take their tithes and buy land for their people to live on, instead of buying mansions and Lear jets for the priests. You know, just something to consider there. Anyway, so I admit that this will be a Christian Gnostic take on the assertion that yoga is evil. Now, there's a couple of different ways to look at this. I'll just deal with the secular aspect of it. It's not evil to exercise. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. You know, I mean, if you just view yoga, say it became a part of the Olympics, you know, it's just about exercise and how proficient one can be at doing these practices. Just like in the Olympics, there's no metaphysical claims to being a high jumper. It's just how good can you demonstrate that you can high jump. And there's certainly nothing evil about high jumping per se. And there's nothing evil about yoga per se as far as a secular view on exercise. And having done yoga in the past, not extensively, but enough to know that it is beneficial for the human body-mind. There's no question about that. So then it comes down to analyzing that charge, that assertion, from a spiritual lens. And certainly, if it turned out that one of the fundamentalist literal religious traditions was in fact the only truth about life, then that's the only possible way that yoga could be evil in the spiritual sense. But yeah, I mean, you can mine my website for why there's overwhelmingly good arguments that particular narrative and that particular assertion from that particular worldview is false. None of those religions in their normative iterations are the truth about life, whether Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, or in my opinion, the writings of the Vedas. When they become concretized and dogmatized within religious, Darwinian religious structures within society, they no longer hold spiritual truth at that point. They become, for the most part, mechanisms of population control. So, is it evil then? From a Christian perspective, in a way it is. But only when you understand the nature of the demiurge So from that perspective, it's no more evil than anything else here, you know. So to say that you want to become one or have a yoke in union with the demiurge is entirely problematic from the Christian Gnostic perspective. It's really the last thing anybody would want to do, and the different iterations of the demiurgic figure all have to do with the sun. And I pointed out that it is absurd to call the sun evil. Yes, I get that, but these aren't to be taken too literally. The idea, though, of that the demiurge and the sun are sort of have this synonymous aspect in relation to each other isn't incongruent from the Christian Gnostic perspective. But it goes to creation myths within the Gnostic tradition, and this place is known, depending on what school you go to, as the Kenoma. This is the void where the demiurge resides below the pleroma, if we can use this kind of literal structural idea of dimensions, not to be taken literally, of course. But so out of the Kenoma, Kenny, came this construct, a false construct, a deceptive construct. Now, whether this is entirely false, like illusion, like a dream, like the non-dual schools say, that's not the camp I sit in. I mean, I've always acknowledged that it is possible, but I find too many problems with it myself. So I believe that this place is real, and the issue is the archons that the demiurge created, that are the demons in human form here that control this construct, this deceptive construct. This is the camp I sit in, and the metaphysics behind it is entirely dualist. So there's real distinctions between mind and matter, and between this material existence and spiritual Godhead. What I find has happened now, regardless of the truth of Vedic spirituality, and there are thousands of different schools within the Vedas, as there are 33,000 different sects within Christianity, regardless of the metaphysical truth that anybody believes in within the historical context of that religion, there is what's happened in modernity with it, with the central bankers and the CIA, and what I call the neoliberal school of spiritual propaganda, and how they went into India and cherry-picked certain schools and then just created the New Age movement out of it. And the school that they picked to espouse is the Luciferian school, where they say that humans are God. Basically, that's the non-dual schools. As a Christian Gnostic, of course, we have problems with that, to say the least, as most of Christendom would, no matter what 33,000 sects you belong, one of the 33,000 sects you belong to, you're going to have a problem with the non-dual claims. Specifically, from a broader ideological lens, it's not as problematic to me. Could this be a dream, in the same way that when I wake up in the morning, that wasn't real, and when I die, this wasn't real? Yeah, it could be. But certainly, to cherry pick, just to go back to that other issue, to cherry pick a school of Vedic philosophy and then to propagate it to manipulate culture, that is so wrong on every level. And this is what happened. I mean, I can't prove it. I could probably prove it beyond a reasonable doubt within an impartial law court, if I was ever able to take the charge into a court of law. So at this point, what I'm saying is speculative, but come on. Anybody with half a brain who investigates these matters can see that what I'm saying is true. So there's that aspect of it that is as dodgy as you know what. And again, that is separate from any metaphysical truth that may or may not exist within the Vedas. So, and then there's the way that, Western capitalist neoliberal culture has treated yoga. It's just like, oh, no. It's the exact opposite of what yoga should be, So, yeah, I mean, from that perspective, it's a disaster. What else? What else here? I don't know. I think that pretty well covers everything that I wanted to say on it. If I think of anything else, I'll make another video or just put it in the notes. I think that to practice yoga from a secular perspective, nothing wrong with it. But I think that what comes along with this type of thing for most people is the spiritual question, like what is going on with spirituality? Is there a God? What does reality consist of? Is there anything that's metaphysically evil? At that point, I think there's good reason to be cautious about yoga when it's linked to this kind of metaphysics, because no one knows the human anatomy more than the archons who are responsible for us, and that gives them incredible powers of manipulation over us. They can create all kinds of narratives about the finite parts of the human body that they just know inside and out, and they can create all kinds of BS about, oh, this means that, and that means, oh, that's the Ark of the Covenant, and blah 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 blah. It's one thing to make a claim, and I'm talking about the chrism claim here within yogic schools. It's one thing to make a claim. It's another thing to be able to demonstrate it, and to not be able to demonstrate one of the claims in any kind of empirical manner is, in my opinion, entirely duplicitous. Which isn't to say if somebody wants to believe something, go ahead. But don't ask reasonable people who have the skills of critical thinking to buy this BS just based on your word. And so, yeah, from the Christian Gnostic perspective, this whole thing is a cage for us. We're imprisoned here by the archons. And from that perspective, yes, yoga is evil, but not necessarily any more evil than anything else. I mean, the metaphor I've used is if you're in a maximum security prison, you're focusing on the issue of sexual preference, you're focusing on the wrong issue. I'm sorry, but you're not assessing things in a way that you need to assess it, given the importance of the construct within which you find yourself, and the metaphysical ramifications of being a prisoner. So, yeah. Okay, I think that sums it up. So I wanted to do this video for quite a while. I've been kind of musing on it, and oh yes, I'll just finish up. I got my hair cut today. How's that? I had to sign waivers. I had to sign legal waivers now. I mean, they've dropped an atomic bomb on the economy, and every grifter out there is going to be wanting to sue somebody for oh, I got COVID, this person gave me COVID, and blah 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 blah. What any sane government would do would just say, look, you can't just sue people over COVID, right? Just pass a law saying no, you can't do that. Yeah, I mean, the other aspect of that is within my country, Canada, there's this right wing. We'll just go back to work, like nothing happened. Just go back to work. Look they dropped an atomic bomb on an automobile. There's hardly anything left of that automobile, and you can't just go back to work. And they're saying, well, you just John Wick, just turn the key and the car will drive. Well, sorry, we're not all John Wick. We can't all just drive these pieces of shit that have been blown to pieces by government edict. Yeah, what they should have done was just call a timeout on the economy for 2 years. Like, just, you know how Jehovah stopped time in the Old Testament? Yeah, okay, just stop time and just say, okay, that's what you owe in 2 years. You'll owe that, no interest charges. Just call a timeout. Oh yes, and I'll just finish up here on the I should do a separate blog on this, on the Economist magazine. Should we seize the moment of climate change? And see all my blogs on what should a climate emergency look like, what should a healthy economics look like, the virus emergency blog posts I've done, and now the truth is coming out from the viper's mouth, the horse's hoof, with that post, with that cover on The Economist, and the truth is really coming out about what the virus agenda was. I'm not going to say we don't need this, but there's two ways to have it. You can either have it in a healthy way or extremely toxic and unhealthy way. And I think we know what we're getting. Okay, www.andrewmarkmusic.com. I'm hoping that I've shed a little bit of perspective on why people claim that yoga is evil and where I feel they're mistaken or not understanding things correctly. So hang in there. Get a haircut, get a job. Bye. I woke up this morning, I looked down the tracks. There ain't no train coming.